Let me paint a picture for you. The party steps through the city gates after weeks of travel. In front of them, smoke rises from chimneys stacked high above winding alleys. A bell tolls in the distance. Children run through market stalls shouting in a language only one of the characters recognizes. A guard eyes them suspiciously, and somewhere in the crowd, a cloaked figure peels off into a side street, watching them. Before your players ask about their quests or what gear they can buy, they're going to ask one thing: what's this place like? And that's the magic of a dynamic city. It's not just a hub or a backdrop, it's a living, breathing character in your campaign. It should have secrets, rhythms, smells, and stories that make your players feel something the moment they arrive, whether it's tension, awe, or suspicion. Welcome back to the Bearded Nerd Podcast, your source of storytelling tools, world-building wisdom, and all things tabletop. I'm your host, Brian, and today we're going to talk about how to build cities that actually feel alive. Cities that your players will remember. These cities grow, shift, and respond to the world around them. If you ever wanted to take your urban settings beyond, here's a blacksmith and a tavern, stick around, this one's for you. What makes a city dynamic? In my opinion, there are 4 things that make a city dynamic. That is moving parts, interpersonal tension, environmental identity, and hooks. The moving parts consist of factions, schedules, and events. Factions such as the Merchants Guild, the Adventuring Guild, the Clerics Guild, or their religion, things like that are all moving, living, and breathing. Schedules such as what happens during the fall, what happens during the different seasons, quite frankly. And then events. Are there festivals? Are there parades? Are there holidays that remember the past and remember the fallen? Things like that consist of a variety of aspects, are all summarized as moving parts. From there, we go to interpersonal tension. Each faction may not like each other, so there will be certain tensions between the factions. There might even be class divides. The noble class may not like the poor or the peasant class because of whatever reason, and vice versa. There may be secret wars between factions. There may be a cultural friction between those who are native to the land or indigenous, and then those who have come as immigrants or refugees. Those are real things that may cause interpersonal tension. From there, we can see the environmental identity. What does the architecture look like? What's the geography of the location? Are there smells and sounds? For example, in my homebrew world, there is a region called Gaelborg. It is heavily inspired by Celtic architecture and Celtic culture. So many of the major cities, especially the port cities, have the sounds and smells of the port, the smell of salt in the air. The geography is going to look very similar to that of Scotland or even Ireland in this case. So there are a lot of different factors that have inspired the environment, but the environment has created an identity within itself. And then lastly, the hooks. Why are they there? What's the reason in which the players, and in this case their characters, keep on exploring? And more importantly, why are the NPCs even there? Think about Baldur's Gate or King's Landing or even Mos Eisley. The first thing that comes to mind isn't the layout, where the taverns are or where certain buildings are. It's the vibe. It's the location itself gives this sort of aura or energy about it. You remember the people, the corruption, the politics. Those are the things that make it dynamic. So, how do you build it? Well, these are the pillars that I would recommend and pillars that I use to build that dynamic city. First and foremost, it has to have a distinct purpose. Ask yourself, why does this city exist? Is it a trade hub? Does it have religious connotations? Is it a fortress, a center for the arcane, or a refugee camp? For example, Wormhold exists because it's built inside a dead dragon skeleton. And now it's a hub for bone carvers, monster hunters, and scholars. There is a purpose to this city. And the purpose varies depending upon the faction, class, or the individual themselves. Next, we create a cultural flavor. What makes this city unique to its people? Do they fear outsiders? Are they nocturnal due to long winters? Or do they revere death or celebrate storms? In Duskwatch, for example, funerals are citywide festivals. There's laughter, there's masks, there's fireworks. It's a celebration of the life that was lived by that individual, or perhaps even a yearly festival to celebrate all those who have passed into the afterlife, to remember who they are. That is something that would make them unique from a cultural perspective. The next pillar that I really love to use, and I've spoken about it in other episodes, are factions, especially factional tension. Who's pulling the strings and who's trying to cut them? Are there religious zealots or merchant guilds that are at war with each other? Are there old bloodlines and criminal families working together? There has to be at least two factions that should be visible or in secret conflict with one another. So let's say that the noble class is in allegiance, or their allies rather, with the merchant guild, but those two factions are against the religious zealots and the criminal families. Or you can even just say that the religious zealots are in a visible or secret conflict against the criminal families. Either way, there needs to be tension between those that are pulling the strings and those that are trying to proverbially cut them. The last pillar is the unspoken problem. What is wrong that no one talks about? The city is slowly sinking, perhaps? Is there an illness that's spreading in the shadows? Or is there a random curfew, but no one's telling the people why? This gives the players an instant story that doesn't really need a giant exposition dump. It just needs some or one of the players to follow the crumbs, so to speak. Now, this part is for those who have built their city and they want to know what's next. Here is what I recommend. If you have a city and you need something to drop into it, I would always recommend just easy, low-hanging fruit hooks. The governor just died, and there's 3 heirs claiming the seat. That's an easy hook. Or a secret sewer path connects the poor district to the vault beneath the palace. What's going on there? Why is that happening? Those little things right there, those little seeds could be planted. And then you can just go from there. The point of having an easy city hook or some sort of story hook within the city is to let your players find unofficial history, so to speak, or little hidden factions or factors even, and explore them. This is the part of exploration that we talk about in games such as Dungeons and Dragons. The exploration part in a TTRPG is so nuanced and so important. But place these little hooks, these very easy to read hooks that allows your players to chase them. This part makes the city dynamic because it allows them to just go crazy. You, as a game master, want your players to explore the thing that you've built. And you may say, well, Brian, they didn't explore that part of the city, right? They didn't want to. They just moved on. Well, guess what? You can lift and shift this, like I've explained in other episodes of the podcast, and you can take that same hook and place it in another city. Either way, it doesn't matter. The great thing about this is to always, always, always have hooks ready that the players can explore. And bonus, you can have those hooks tied to a faction or to a specific ruling class or some sort of group, right? It doesn't have to be specific or generalized to the city. It could be specific to a faction and generalized to an area, right? So let's say the specific is the Merchants Guild, but the area is the port of the city because that's where it's at, right? You can kind of have a 2-for-1 combo, as they say. But be simple about it. Just create a hook. You can assign it to a faction or assign it to a location or just to the general vibe of the city. Now we are at the fun part. You have created your city. You've used the pillars as mentioned beforehand. And now what you're going to do is you're going to do 3 things. You're going to use a random NPC generator. This is going to be for the shopkeepers, the guards, or whoever else you want to kind of fill in. They're going to be randomized. You can use roll tables that you find on social media, or you can just use a random NPC generator online. But it's going to be their name, maybe a brief description, and a quirk about them. Then you're going to zone out your city. You're going to really create 3 to 4 districts, and they each have their own vibe. Maybe there's a merchant's row, there's the drowned alley, where maybe that's like the bad part of town, and then the scholar's bridge. All those have their own sense of life, and they're all going to have different quirks about them and descriptions and maybe their own quests, so to speak. Then you'll have a downtime events table. This is where things get really fun. This will allow your players to acquire rumors, jobs, or just get entangled in the drama of the city in between quests. For example, in the city of Legalheim, where my players start, there are about 4 to 5 districts, and each one has their own rumors, jobs, has their own drama, gossip, and whatnot. And in between major quest lines, as I call them, they can go back to rest and replenish, but they can explore those parts of the city and gain some bonus experience, so to speak. And that is why it's there. It's for them to explore a little bit more, to role play a little bit more. And all those things just make it beautiful. Now, as a bonus part of this episode, I really want to make sure that I share with you what I use. And I specifically use Incarnate. Incarnate is a phenomenal map-making tool. They have always been fantastic people on the customer support line, and they've had an amazing community of fellow cartographers and map makers and just world builders in their Discord and just in their Reddit community as well. It's probably one of the more positive Reddit communities, that I've ever witnessed in my life as a gamer. Although they are not exactly sponsoring this episode, they have sponsored other little aspects of the Bearded Nerd in the past. But more importantly, they're just good people. So I really want to shout out Incarnate. I use them in all my maps for my campaigns, whether it's my Star Wars 5e campaign or whether it's my homebrew fantasy campaign. I love Incarnate. Again, I'm not sponsored and they're not sponsoring this specific episode, but I will leave a link in the description and in the show notes for you to just check them out. And Brian Marshall is one of my favorite cartographers, as well as Kate, or World Kate K, the fantasy cartographer, and also a really good author. I love her work. I will link both social media tags in the show notes as well, but they are both fantastic cartographers that use Incarnate. So I would highly recommend them if you're looking for them. And I'll be honest with you, it's a very affordable program. I believe it's like $5 a month or $25 for the year or something like that. It's really affordable. I would not recommend it if I was not using it myself. And honestly, affordability in this economy is 100% something that comes to mind. So check out Incarnate if you're unaware of them, and if you use them, I would love to see your maps. Let me know. I will, email them to me, but let me see your maps. With that being said, folks, a city isn't just a setting. It's a story engine. It gives your players reasons to explore, to fight, negotiate, and to grow. So start with a purpose. Layer in culture, conflict, and secrets. And before long, your players will treat that city like home or like the enemy. Thanks for listening to the Bearded Nerd podcast, your source of storytelling tools, world-building wisdom, and all things tabletop. If you want plug-and-play city templates, NPC packs, and downtime generators, check out the Patreon for all the extras. You'll find resources that save prep time and supercharge your narrative. Appreciate you listening, and if you enjoy this, please share this with your friends. But as always, much love and keep gaming.